In this video we want to explore some of the common weaknesses that are portrayed by small businesses. We're going to go through a list of various points which could be relevant in the context of a discussion on small business weakness. First of all, no documented systems and procedures. It could be the case that businesses are very weak at maintaining documentation simply because they're under pressure. They are working very hard with very limited resources and don't have the time to document and keep good records of transactions. And there are various important areas of the business that need to be properly documented. Critical amongst these include marketing and sales. It's important that the business keep good records of their activities in the market and try to build up a database of customers and of customer preferences and the experiences of working in that market environment. This will help the business in future contacts with those customers or with that segment of the market. It's also important to keep good records when hiring staff to ensure that all the procedures are properly followed. There should be good documentation to guide the business in the hiring process, and also to try to evaluate the applicant for a position to ensure that the applicant is suitable for the particular requirements that the owners have in mind. So it's important to have good documentation, and the documentation can be built up with experience over time, it can be researched, but it's important that there are good templates to be followed within the business. Service delivery is also very important. This goes with the marketing activity, but customers will gauge the efficiency of the business and the effectiveness of the business in dealing with the market through not just the product and its quality and its pricing, but also through its service delivery. So it's important that the business has good records of its past contacts within the market and what went right, what went wrong, and try to establish procedures which will eliminate the possibility of failure. And this evaluation can be based on past experience through scrutiny of properly kept records, properly kept accounts of what happened. Billing is also important. It's important to know which customers pay on time and who has a problem in paying, and so a good documented system with good records, that is valuable. And customer care is also an issue, to ensure that the customers are being treated fairly and promptly and with respect. So the customer's preferences should try to be captured, and within the customer database there should be good records indicating the contacts the business has had with the customers and, if you like, the quality of that contact. In other words, was the contact successful? Was it fruitful? Did both sides benefit from the contact? And what can be done to improve it in future contacts? Not easily coordinated if there is no detailed documentation. It's almost impossible to coordinate and to deal with these various issues if there is little documentation. It means in effect that the business is like starting from the beginning every time. There has been no accumulated knowledge, no captured knowledge about these issues. So it's important that the business capture their experiences so that they have something to build on when required to do so in the future. It may lead to results that are inconsistent, inefficient, and ineffective. In other words, it's not a good prospect for the business if they're simply relying on their memory or on hope that they're getting it right. It's particularly important also if staff are changing within the business, because as one set of staff leave, another set come in. The ones that are leaving are taking away the experiences, and those experiences should have been captured in terms of documentation. Now, documentation benefits from certainty and consistency in handling routine tasks. Once the documentation is there, there is certainty. The business knows what to do because they know what happened the last time. They have learned from the experience, and they're going to also be consistent. They're going to find out what best practice is, and they're going to deal with the customers using best practice. So they're going to be consistent, and the customers will see this and will have more confidence in the business. They are dealing with the customers more professionally, more consistently, and they seem to know the customers. In fact, they're relying on their documentation, on their recorded experiences. But as far as the customer is concerned, it's been a good contact. It's been a good experience. And hence, it should lead to more sales and a better outcome for the business. Documentation also can help develop training programs. I mentioned a few moments ago that as one set of workers perhaps leave the business for various reasons, employees and staff come and go, but as one set leave and another set come in, they need to be trained, and they need to be trained to have the consistency I just mentioned and the certainty in dealing with the customers and dealing with particular situations. So having documented procedures is very valuable in terms of developing that training program to enable the business to present a consistent view to the outside world. It helps to meet customers' expectations because customers' expectations can be gauged at the point of contact and recorded. So the next time there is contact, the company knows, the marketing section knows what the customers expect. They know their preferences. And also the feedback from the customers and from the market in general can help the business to develop new products, to innovate the existing products, to develop the business itself. So again, good documentation will help with this. The second problem that we want to mention is that business is too dependent on the owner or on one key person, and that is a persistent issue or complaint almost about small businesses. The business is very dependent on the owner or on perhaps one key person. This could be caused by a lack of written procedures, so only one person knows what to do, and that person is key. But of course the danger there is that if that person is away ill or leaves the business doesn't have a fallback position. They don't have the written procedures. So it's important that the knowledge that has been acquired by the owner or by that one key person, whoever it is within the business, that knowledge should be captured and should be documented. There's also a problem of lack of delegation. When a business depends on one person, it means that person tends to lack the confidence or almost lack the authority, perhaps. It could be the authority from the owner, or it could be the authority that the person gets by virtue of his or her status. And they may not want to delegate because it may shed bad light on them. If the delegation fails, it will seem like they have made a bad decision in selecting the person who was delegated to. So the key person may be reluctant to delegate. But of course, in not delegating, it again means that knowledge is concentrated in that one person. And that's dangerous for the business. If that one person is ill or leaves the business will not know what to do. So it's important that certain functions, at least, can be delegated, others can be involved, and they will then start to build up an expertise as well. It requires time to train others, and that may be a reason why the owner or the key person keeps power, because the business simply doesn't have the time to train others. It's firefighting. It's dealing with constant pressure from the market or constant pressure from suppliers, or it's just working hard to stay in existence. So it doesn't have time to train. And that means that there is a great dependency on one person or on the owner. But again, it leads to vulnerability. Sometimes they don't believe that others can do the task. Sometimes the owner or the key person may be somewhat arrogant and think they can't delegate because no one else can do it. They're the only people who can do it. And they refuse to give others the opportunity to try out or to attempt to work with some of their ideas or some of their ways. So they block, in a sense, they block others from participating. It may be a power situation. They want to keep power for themselves. Instead of just not believing that others can do it, they simply don't want to give away the power that they've got. But as I said, it leads to vulnerability of the business. If they leave, or if they're ill or whatever, then, or they retire, then the business will suffer. The more a business owner delegates, or if you like outsources to others, the more time he or she will free up to work on more important tasks like growth and profit improvement. So there are good reasons why the owners or the key person should delegate, because they can then look at the business more objectively. They can put in new practices, look for efficiencies, develop the product, extend the range of the business. So the business will benefit if the owner or the key person does delegate. The third problem is too many eggs in one basket. When a business is too dependent on one or two big customers, the business becomes vulnerable. It's far preferable if the business can spread the risk, have more customers. So if one customer turns against the business, it's not a disaster for the business. Whereas if the business only has one or two big customers and one of them turns against the business for whatever reason, the business becomes vulnerable. The owner may become content or complacent when the business receives a large order. One bad experience can cause the customer to leave and result in major revenue loss that may destroy the business. So even though a business has, let's say, one big customer and enjoys getting a big order every so often, if for any reason that big customer turns against the business or no longer requires the output of the business, then the business is extremely vulnerable. Its existence is threatened. While the business needs to keep the big and small customers happy, it needs to make an effort to get new customers also. It is desirable to grow the customer base and diversify risk in that way. So businesses should not be complacent. Simply because they've got a big customer or a couple of big customers doesn't mean it's a good thing. then they should be looking for more customers to diversify the risk, so that if one of the big customers or both of the big customers or however many big customers they've got, if they leave, the business will continue. So it's important that they diversify their customer base. They try to get new customers and thereby reduce the risk of failure caused in this way. No proven methods for revenue growth. No proven methods for revenue growth. Well, if a business needs new orders, it needs a strategy to get them. Now, the strategy may be based on past experience. But the problem that sometimes small businesses have is, because they're working so hard to stay in existence, they don't have the time to adequately plan, objectively, coolly, calmly, collectedly. They can't get a plan together which will generate extra customers and extra sales and hence extra revenue. So they don't have methods planned out. They tend to rely on what they did in the past, which got them through. And whilst that may succeed for a long time, over time the chances are the market will change, the customer base will change, the technology will change, the customer requirements will change. So it should have some proven methods for revenue growth. They should have some testing of the market. They should be introducing new products, trying them out, trying to get them established within the market, so they're bringing on extra lines to diversify the risk, so that if anything goes wrong with the existing customers, they have replacements coming on. New strategies are necessary to take advantage of changes in the market and new technology. So it's important that the company creates the space, creates the time for the management to look critically at what they're doing, look at the opportunities afforded by the new technologies that are coming on board, try to grow the business and orientate the business in a way that will enable it to continue should it lose traditional customers, or should the traditional products that it's been producing start to fail. If those sales start to dry up, they've got alternatives. Existing strategies that work need to be maintained also. It doesn't mean that the company throws everything out. Strategies that are working at the moment with existing customers, perhaps with existing lines of production, they're working, so they should be maintained. But the business should always be looking for new opportunities, perhaps with new strategies, looking for ways to use existing capital and existing skills and competencies within the business, but perhaps meeting a new market requirement, or simply developing an entirely new product. Certainly it's important for the management to diversify in this way, to, as I said, diversify risk, to reduce the risk of collapse if the traditional product no longer sells. Lack of differentiation is also a problem in small business. Products become less differentiated over time. This happens not just in small business, but happens in large businesses as well. If we look at the car industry, we know that small cars are very popular. And many years ago, car companies introduced a hatchback. The hatchback was very successful because a small car now had 5 doors, or 3 doors, depending on the style of the car. And the hatchback was an innovation. So the company who came up with it experienced large profits, but other companies copied. Until now, small cars tend to follow the same style. There are very small differences between them. There may be slight changes in the shape, but the functionality of the cars has also become the same. What's inside the car? Modern cars have satellite navigation built in. They have Bluetooth. They have reversing cameras. And all the small cars tend to start to develop this and build it in. So cars are becoming less different until the new great idea is introduced, whatever that is in the future. Some entrepreneur will come up with some new idea, perhaps driverless cars, which has now been talked about. And driverless cars could be the new innovation. In economics, the relevant part of economic theory that relates to this is called monopolistic competition. It sees companies as having a monopoly in the production of their product, but other companies copied successful products. That means the products are becoming less different in the market. So differentiation evaporates over time. They become less differentiated over time. So companies copy the successful products so that the degree of differentiation in the market becomes less over time. Not just in the car industry, this is in virtually all parts of the market or the markets. Companies who make successful products, those products will be copied by others. They'll be slightly different, and they'll be sufficiently different so as not to break, say, patents. But they will be doing essentially the same task, and eventually, over time, all of those products will start to essentially be the same. Slight differences between them. It's important to be innovative and be seen as a forward-looking business. So it's important that the businesses not just innovate as a one-off, they should be innovating on a continual basis, changing the product continuously, updating its style, updating its functionality, its various attributes. So it's important that businesses are continually improving the product, which will hopefully give them advantages in the market. And hopefully the customers will recognize the difference between their product and similar products in the market. So competition is based on price and non-price variables. Companies compete on the basis of price, who's the cheapest, but they also compete on the basis of reputation, which company has the stronger reputation, the more reputable business. But they also compete on terms of style, colour, shape, texture, performance. So there are non-price variables that are important to the customer. And competition ranges across all of these. It ranges from price all the way through to non-price and to various aspects of non-price competition, like style and quality and after-sales service. All of these are important. The next one is the wrong people supporting the business. The next problem of small business. A business owner will depend on others, employees, subcontractors, suppliers, and so on. So business owners need the involvement of others. It's essential to choose the right ones, and developing them is a key to sustainable growth and profit. Businesses require inputs from employees and from subcontractors. The employees have got certain skills and aptitudes and competencies, and they're being selected because of these. But it's essential that the employees then bring these to bear within the business. So it's important to employ the employees. It's important to engage the employees, slightly different words, so that the employees will be motivated to bring to bear their skills and competencies within the business. And that will mean that the business will then grow and will produce a profit. But it's important within the selection process to find the right people, the right employees with the right motivation, the right subcontractors, the right suppliers. And this means research. It means attention to detail. It means proper processes which will yield proper results. It'll find the right employees, it'll find the right subcontractors, the right suppliers. And once that's been done, then the business should work effectively. But then again, this is always on a continual basis, because employees leave, subcontractors close down, suppliers change. So the business is continually looking for the right sources of raw materials and components and subcontractors who will carry out certain functions, and the right employees who will be properly motivated, properly engaged in the business with the right skills and competencies. So it's a continual process on the part of the business to try to find these people. But it's important not just to depend on one. Just find the employees and assume that they're going to be engaged and work in the interest of the business. It's important to have a good recruitment campaign which will enable the business to find out what motivates the applicants and if they're suitable to the tasks in mind. Invest time and resources to select the best and build those relationships so everyone benefits. So it's important that the small business commits the time and effort to proper selection. And proper selection means selecting the suppliers, the subcontractors, the employees, the managers, selecting them so that they have suitability to the culture of the business that's been developed, to the aspirations of the owners and the key motivators, the entrepreneurs in the business, so that the employees and all involved in the business can work together, and they will understand the importance of innovation, change, customer satisfaction, efficiency, productivity. In other words, they will commit themselves within the organization. The next problem small business may have is a lack of cash. The balance between sales, profits, cash flow, it needs to be right. It's important that the business works out what bills has to be paid in the coming time period, let's say in the next month. Then looks at what revenue is coming in and can the bills be paid. And look at the profitability of the business to see that the business is producing a profit. There's no point in starting a business that's going to generate a loss. So it's important that the pricing scheme is such that it will enable the business to produce a profit, to pay its overheads, to pay direct labour charges, wages and power and raw materials, but also make a contribution towards the overheads, so that at some critical point the amount of sales will cover the overheads, it'll make a contribution to the overheads such that the overheads are covered and all the direct costs, labour and so on have been paid, and after that any additional sales will generate profits. But it's important that the business has a cash flow statement and it knows what it needs to produce to pay the bills. Cash flow video will be, well, there are several on the course, but there's another one in this module as well. Establish a pricing strategy that supports profit, not just sales. So it's important that the company does not aim just to have a large amount of sales. It should have sufficient sales, but sales that generate a profit, and there's a balancing act to be undertaken there. And for that reason, it's important that the managers and the owners, the entrepreneurs, should have a good working knowledge of accountancy, at least budgeting, inventory control, profit and loss, cash flow, break even. These are essential techniques that must be understood by the managers, owners, entrepreneurs, the people who have established the business. So these are 7 big weaknesses that small businesses may experience. Well worth stopping the video, going back and making a note of these and making sure you understand the various weaknesses that small businesses may encounter. But that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.